Most people think making cheese at home is complicated, but it can actually be quite simple even if you're a complete beginner. Look. So if you're feeling stuck because you don't know where to start, then listen up. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what you need, what to do, and which cheeses to make, so you can begin making cheese right away and have fun doing it. Now, when people first become interested in cheese making, it's usually either because they have a milk-producing animal and they need to figure out a way to use up the milk, or they read a book, watched a YouTube video, or just somehow got it into their noggin that they wanted to learn how to make cheese. But then they skim through a few recipes and get bogged down in the list of unfamiliar ingredients and tools, throw up their hands. It's too complicated. It's too much money. Cheese making is not for me. But the fact is, cheese making can be a scrappy, money-saving venture, or it can be a luxurious hobby. You get to decide. So I'm going to do something I haven't seen anyone do before. I'm breaking cheese making down into 4 different starting categories called the make framework or the make cycle. These are not steps you have to follow, just different ways people start making cheese. And you can enter this framework anywhere and migrate around as your needs change. I've made a resource explaining what is needed in each category, and it's free, so grab the link below. Now, this first group is for people who do not have any cash, because it's all about learning to make cheese using the tools that you already have, or making do. But I can hear you guys already. I don't have a cheese press. I don't have a curd knife. I don't have a mold. Hang on, back up. Let's think about this for a second. People have been making cheeses for centuries over open fires and with babies and animals underfoot, and without electricity or running water or freeze-dried cultures, digital thermometers, or Amazon Prime. Look around your kitchen. It's probably 100 times more well-stocked and suitable for cheese making than you even know. So here's how to make cheese for practically free. First, use what you already have at your disposal. For cultures, use natural ones like cultured buttermilk and yogurt. For cheesecloth, boil old cotton pillowcases or t-shirts. For a mold, poke holes in leftover plastic ice cream or sour cream tubs. For a free-form press, use a pot filled with water as your weight. For an aging box, use a lidded plastic container from your Tupperware drawer. Second, make use of all the free resources you have at your fingertips. The local library, websites, YouTube videos. Hello friends, we're on YouTube right now, and this is all completely free for you. You're welcome. And make sure you get all the freebies that you can possibly find. For example, you can join the hundreds of people who have already downloaded the 17-page Foundations of Cheese Making doc that I made. The cottage cheese recipes, the 2-ingredient mozzarella tutorial, the cream framework document. And if you're not already on my email list, then get on it. I send out all sorts of cheese making insights, stories, and tips every Friday. Third, begin with simple, low stakes cheeses. Top ones I recommend: cuajada, because it takes an hour from start to eating it; queso fresco, because it is a pressed cheese that does not require any aging; paneer, because it is a rennet-free cheese that uses lemon juice to form the curd, and it is fantastic fried; and then yogurt cheese, because it is a luxurious, creamy, soft cheese that's similar to cream cheese, but not nearly as rich. I have videos of all of these cheeses here on my YouTube channel, again, for free. Now, there are a couple things that you will need to buy. Milk, obviously, and rennet, and if you're using pasteurized milk, calcium chloride. If you don't already have a thermometer and a scale, then get one. These are basic tools that every working kitchen should probably have anyway. But for everything else, you can make do with what you have. Maybe you've already experimented with a few simple cheeses, and now what you want is just to understand cheese making better. If this is you, then this category, the A stands for apprentice, is going to give you clarity, confidence, and guidance. 5 years ago, when I first started making cheese, I struggled to find real people who intuitively understood the process and who didn't freak out and tell me to throw out my cheeses every time they had a bad smell or looked strange. And oh my gosh, the bin the cheeses choir, trash the cheeses, throw it out, don't eat it, it's contaminated. It drove me nuts. So without a mentor, I spent the next several years sifting through recipes, experimenting, and making mistakes. Eventually, I more or less figured it out. I've found my groove. I know the basics, and I know how to shake things up. I can more or less make any cheese I want, which is nuts. But I've never forgotten that lost feeling I had when I was starting. I knew there had to be a better way for beginners. So I built the resource I wanted back then. A simple process to teach brand new cheesemakers the basics without requiring them to spend any money on special gear. Because I believe it's important to know what is involved before splurging on the tools. So if you're craving the relief and the simplicity of clarity, or if you simply want to save yourself years of trial and error, then the workshop's got everything in it to set you on the path for making all sorts of delicious cheeses in record time. And I've just updated the workshop to include direct email access to me to help you with any tricky spots. So if you want to kickstart your cheese making, this is your shortcut. Now, if you have a little money to invest because you want to make the process smoother and more reliable, but you do not want to waste money on any unnecessary gear, this next category is all about the kit. Making a few smart purchases to simplify your workflow so you can consistently make a wide variety of cheeses. First, most cheeses can be made with just a few basic tools. Choose a couple good molds based on the size of cheese that you typically make. I generally use 8 gallons of milk to make a wheel of cheese, so I have this mold. I also have a tall, skinny one. I use this one for the tête de moi, and I have a few other smaller ones. But if you're just starting out, just get one catch-all mold. I bought my giant pot from Webstaurant and it is fantastic. Zero scorching. Woohoo, it's big. I have a clip-on thermometer that's so old, all the numbers are washed away, and I have a meat thermometer. You can buy individual pieces of cheesecloth or a whole freaking bolt. Get a collection of various cloths of different types of weaves. You will use them, and grade 90 is ideal for cheese making. I collect aging boxes like I do cheesecloth in a variety of sizes and shapes. I got these bad boys from Webstaurant, and then all these rinky-dink ones from the dollar store, the thrift store, whatever. Because same size cheeses require similar amounts of salt and aging times, if possible, get a bunch of the same size basket molds to simplify things. I have different size baskets and they irritate me to no end. It doesn't really matter what kind you get, just get a bunch, all of the same size. Now, when cutting deep pots of curd into large, even pieces, a long curd knife will simplify the process. I have got a stack of cheese making books, but 2 of my favorites are Asher's Milk into Cheese and Caldwell's Mastering Artisan Cheese Making. You will get a ton of mileage out of both of these books. Now, there are 3 bigger items that I do recommend. First, a press. I have 2. I have a spring-loaded one that I got from New England Cheesemaking Supply Company about 20 years ago. And I have a Dutch press that one of you made for me as a gift. Both of them are wonderful, but of the 2, I prefer the Dutch press for its continuous pressure and better control, and its ability to press cheeses so much harder. Second, a vacuum sealer, because it allows you to successfully age wheels of cheese in suboptimal conditions. A dank basement, say, or a dry wine fridge, or a regular fridge. And third, a second-hand wine fridge, because it doesn't take up much space and it will dramatically increase your options for making longer aged cheeses. Now, as for ingredients, I recommend continuing to use natural cultures. Yogurt and kefir for thermophilic cheeses, and cultured buttermilk and clabber for mesophilic cheeses. That said, it is really nice to have some freeze-dried cultures on hand, but you do not need many. I recommend getting an all-purpose mesophilic culture like Floridanica or MA11, and get an all-purpose thermophilic culture like Su Casu. Beyond that, if you want to make bloomy rind cheeses, stock Penicillium candidum and Geotrichum candidum. If you want to make washed rind cheeses like Lady Zella and Munster, get some B. linens. If you want to make Swisses or Swiss-style cheeses, get some Propionic Shermani. And if you're going to make blue cheese, get some Penicillium Rogue 40. This is the level at which you can unlock all the diverse textures and flavors you crave with just a few smart purchases, and you do not need to buy everything at once. Your cheese repertoire explodes. Cheddar, Colby, Jack, Asiago, Brie, Blue, Swiss. Before you know it, you're not only going to feel like a real cheesemaker, you are going to be one. But what if you're already making cheese and you know that you're hooked and you're ready to go all in? Well, if you're already making cheese, then you probably know better than anyone where your gaps are and what you need to do next to level up. But because beginning cheesemakers are often curious about where their new interest may lead them, let me spell out the ways in which you might expand. Depending on the types of cheeses you tend to make the most often, you'll probably want to make some more specialized purchases. For example, if you make a lot of bloomy rinds, then you'll need 2-ply paper for wrapping and aging those fuzzy little babies. And if you're into natural rind cheeses and need a way to test whether or not they're done aging, you'll probably want to get a tester. If you make Goudas and Edams a lot, then stock up on wax. If you're making a wide assortment of cheeses, get a couple different heavy-duty molds. I recently splurged on a round one and a rectangular mold, and I have been eyeing the Laura molds and a Manchego mold for years, but I still have not yet splurged on them. If you're the sort of cheesemaker who loves science and craves consistency, then get a good pH meter. I don't have one, but I hear they are really good. And then there are the extras, like if you're into butter, get a churn and butter paper and butter paddles, maybe even a cream separator. And if you're into ice cream, get an ice cream maker, and so on. But as for the cheeses specifically, the number one thing that I'd recommend spending money on is a better aging space. After years of making cheese, we finally built a walk-in cheese cave this past summer, and it has made an impressive difference in the quality of my cheeses. It's easier to tend to the cheeses, and the textures and flavors are so much better. But you don't have to build a big cave like this. Most people don't, and that is perfectly okay. Instead, you can buy a secondhand freezer and convert it to a cheese cave or a cheeser, like we did back before we had the cave. Or you can insulate a closet in your basement, or just collect several wine fridges. Whatever you decide, you're probably going to have to decide something, because aging space is the biggest equipment gap that most home cheesemakers struggle with. Now, since this is a category where we get to dream, I'm going to add 2 more things. For me, plane tickets to Europe to apprentice with an artisan cheesemaker in the Alps, or anywhere really, I don't care. I just think it would be so much fun. And number 2, for those cheesemakers who are really, really serious, there's what might be the biggest investment of all: land and your own milk animals. Look at that. In the first category, we started with scrappy people looking for a way to preserve the milk from their animals. And now we're back to this last group of cheesemakers who want to splurge on their own milk animals. So now that we have come full circle, here's what you can do right now. Choose which quadrant in the Make framework matches your budget. Download the free PDF with the list of all the supplies and go for it. If you want even more insider tricks, then don't miss these 9 hacks that every beginning cheesemaker should know. Happy milk slinging.